I'm going to show you how to chop samples and clean up vocals and drums with the new Concentrate plugin from ManyHeads. This plugin is a fully featured strip silence tool for Ableton Live, but it can also be used to create interesting glitch effects and make sample chopping quicker and more interesting. Let's get started with Concentrate. Let's start with how you can use Concentrate as part of your sample chopping workflow. I'm going to show you something you should always do before you chop your samples. Here we have a nice improvised monophonic vocal. If we drop it straight into Simpler and put it in slice mode, some of the slices that get mapped to our keys or pads will just be silence. So first we need to remove the gaps from the original audio sample. You can certainly do that manually, but Concentrate is much faster, especially for longer samples. Let's load Concentrate on this track, and it'll automatically load the vocal clip. Let's move the loudness threshold dial to set the level of audio we want to keep and audio we want to drop. Now Concentrate is not only faster than removing gaps manually, but it also chops your sample cleanly by snapping all of your cuts to the nearest zero crossing. That means it moves your cut points to the nearest spot where the waveform crosses the middle zero line, so that each slice starts and ends at a silent point rather than mid-wave. You can press preview to see what I mean, and you'll see how the audio will sound with the gaps removed. Now that's pretty smooth, but we'll smooth it out even more in a moment. Now, before we commit our changes, let's change our slice mode to stack. That means all of the audio we're keeping will be merged together and the gaps will be completely removed. We could toggle on the consolidate button, which would replace the original sample on the track with one clip, but for now we're going to leave that off, and I'll show you why. Let's commit our changes to the track. That will replace the original clip on the track, but it's not gone, and we'll get more into that later. Since we're in stack mode and consolidate is off, you can see that each piece of audio we selected is stacked on the track back to back. From here, you could use those clips in many ways, but what we're going to do is select them all. Then press Command Option F to insert a short crossfade between each clip. That will make the transitions between each clip even smoother. Now with all of the clips selected, let's press Command J or Control J if you're on Windows. That'll consolidate everything to a single clip. Now we have a gap-free sample with very smooth transitions. And that means that when we drop this into Simpler and switch to slice mode, every slice has a sound, and the slices that contain merged clips sound smooth, and honestly, they often sound more interesting than slices that have a single clean sound. So let's play around with this a little. The original sample was entirely in E minor, so if I use that in a song that's already in E minor, I really don't have to transpose any of the slices to get it into the right key, and the result is a much more natural, organic sound that you can play on pads kind of like an instrument. Concentrate that way all the time. This is a recording of me playing with a toy drum I got for $5. I can take those hits and save them to use on a drum rack, but let's see what happens if I just kind of smush together the entire recording. Yeah, pretty cool. Now, I'm going to show you the nuts and bolts of using Concentrate as a remove silence or strip silence tool to clean up audio. So here's an audio track with 3 vocal clips and 1 drum clip. When we drop Concentrate onto this track, it'll automatically load the first clip. If we want to make changes to a different clip on the track, we can simply expand the device and use these buttons to change the selected clip. Let's start with the second clip on the track. It sounds like this. Now let's adjust the settings. We'll set the threshold to a level that keeps the fullness of the sound because we don't want any abrupt cuts around the vocal. We may want to slightly increase the minimum silence dial. This determines how long a piece of audio must stay below the threshold before it is cut. So lower values split your audio at every tiny dip in volume, and higher values ignore short pauses to keep longer phrases intact. And that's what we want here. We may want to give our audio a little breathing room on the left and right, again to avoid any abruptness in the result. We will keep snap to zero crossings selected so that all of our cut points move to the nearest spot where the waveform crosses the middle 0 line, so that each slice starts and ends at a silent point rather than mid-wave. This big number is just the number of regions we have selected. This number is pretty small, but Concentrate can handle a lot more regions than this, especially since the latest update. Still, if you're committing more than 500 or 1,000 regions and you're in a very heavy live set or on an older computer, you might want to toggle on the Consolidate button. This is especially helpful if you want to keep your original audio in a single clip rather than outputting a new clip for each region you are keeping. When we set our slice mode to in place rather than stack, all of the audio will stay exactly where it is on the timeline when we press commit. If Consolidate is on, Concentrate will insert silence between each region you are keeping. If Consolidate is off, Concentrate will output a single clip for each kept region, in exactly the right place on your timeline. I'll turn on the metronome and play the original clip so we have a reference. Now let's commit with Consolidate off. Each piece of audio we chose to keep populates in the track in exactly the right position. Let's listen again. Now if you look closely at any single clip, you can see that the entire original audio is still there, and that each clip that Concentrate outputs is simply a reference to the original audio with its start and end markers adjusted to fit your selections. That means that Concentrate is not creating new audio clips for each clip, it's simply referencing the original. That also means that the way Concentrate will handle these clips is a bit different than the more typical case where the start and end markers match the start and end of the actual audio. As you can see, Concentrate shows you that the clip you are viewing does not represent the full audio it's associated with. That's because, like I said, the clip is still referencing the original audio, but with its start and end markers adjusted to fit your selection. You can still apply changes to this little slice if you want to, and Concentrate will only make changes to that specific clip, but these dark overlays are there so that you always understand what's happening. Now let's undo that last commit. And let's turn Consolidate mode on. And then let's commit again. And let's take a listen. The result is exactly the same as the previous commit, but our audio lives in this single clip. Concentrate simply inserted silence between the regions that we kept. Let's take a look at using Concentrate on a drum clip. We'll arrow over to that clip on our track. Here's what it sounds like with the metronome on. So we may want to use Concentrate to isolate hits to make a custom drum kit, or we may want to simply remove the silence between the hits. Your settings for drums will probably be a bit different than they were for vocals, so let's take a look. Let's set the threshold so that it selects most or all of our drum hits. Let's leave minimum silence at 0 so that our sound detection is extremely granular. Let's zoom in and look around. We may want to use the left pad and right pad here to make sure we don't lose the click of a kick or the tail of a snare. Now let's commit our changes to the track with Consolidate off and slice mode on in place, and let's take another listen. So that's the latest version of Concentrate. It's a powerful utility plugin with a ton of creative uses. Let me know in the comments what you might do with a tool like this, and I'll see you next time.